50 Cent just dropped a major clue about why Diddy's name never appeared in the Epstein files. And once you start connecting the dots, the leaked footage, hidden tapes, and witness testimonies suddenly begin to paint a much clearer picture. Now with 50 Cent's new documentary officially on the way, he's not holding back. This time, he's aiming straight at some of the biggest and most protected names in Hollywood. So who was really pulling the strings behind Epstein's private island? And what was actually happening behind closed doors that the public still doesn't fully know? In this video, we're breaking down every key name, every connection, and the real reason Diddy's name didn't show up in the unredacted files.
One person who wasn't in the Epstein files was Diddy. And this person said the reason why Diddy wasn't in these files was because he was his competition. So I was like, man,
he was whose competition?
Epstein.
Oh,
Diddy was Epstein's competition.
No way.
Diddy wasn't at none of the Epstein parties or at the island.
Just a week ago, the Department of Justice dropped a massive release of Epstein-related material, over 3 million pages of documents, nearly 2,000 videos, and around 180,000 images pulled from multiple investigations. Most of it was heavily redacted, but the unredacted portions still revealed something disturbing. Epstein's network reached straight into the highest levels of global power. But one name that shocked everyone by being absent was Sean Diddy Combs. Diddy was arrested nearly a year ago, and his reputation has become almost as infamous as Epstein's. He's been accused as an abuser in over 100 lawsuits, with allegations so graphic and horrifying that many people compare them directly to Epstein's crimes. So the question is simple but disturbing: how could two of the most notorious predators on the planet not be connected at all? And here's where it gets even stranger. Diddy's close friend Jay-Z is reportedly mentioned dozens of times throughout the Epstein files. One file even suggests Epstein was using Jay-Z as a tool to influence culture and control the public through entertainment. In that document, a major executive claims the reason there's no uprising against the elite is because people have been pacified by bread and circuses, specifically pointing to hip-hop culture. The message goes even further, saying the very group that should be in the streets has essentially been bought off through Jay-Z's influence. And that's just one example of Jay-Z's name showing up. Which makes Diddy's absence look even more suspicious because people around him were allegedly tied to Epstein, while Diddy, a man accused of running one of the darkest abuse operations the entertainment industry has ever seen, somehow doesn't appear at all. Some sources online claim there's a reason for that. Diddy's name may still be hidden behind redactions. Several files mention Epstein and Jay-Z meeting with a third person whose name is blacked out. And what's interesting is that the redaction appears the same way across multiple documents, suggesting it could be the same individual every time. And once you start connecting those dots, the entire story begins to make a lot more sense.
This is a tip back in 2009 that was sent to the FBI that references Jay-Z, Harvey Weinstein, and Pusha T. It says, on July 10th of 2019 at 8:20 a.m. Eastern Time, someone called the FBI National Threat Operations Center to identify herself as a victim of abuse by Jeffrey Epstein and others. This person said in approximately 1994, she revealed herself as a past victim of abuse by Epstein. She described the abuse that occurred during parties, and she also described someone as a friend of someone. In approximately 1996, she revealed that she resided with someone somewhere. An unknown man abducted someone from her home when she later awoke in the presence of Harvey Weinstein and Sean Carter, known as Jay-Z. This person claimed that Harvey Weinstein inserted his fingers into... She believed that she was in Epstein's mansion in Florida. This person estimated that she was abducted on 7 occasions, awaking each time in an indoor setting. She said that she suffered abuse on multiple of those occasions in which Epstein participated. She claims that she recalled Leon Black and William Barr, the current United States Attorney General, being present during some of the occasions.
50 Cent didn't stay quiet after Jay-Z's name started popping up in the files. Instead, he fired back and hinted that he's ready to address it head-on, saying he plans to drop a documentary that digs into everything. And if you rewind just a few weeks, this lines up perfectly. That's when 50 Cent announced he was already working on part 2 of his Diddy documentary, claiming it would expose even more powerful names connected to the story. He also teased something even bigger, reportedly over 300 hours of unreleased footage he says could directly implicate other major figures. Now people are starting to believe this isn't just another celebrity feud. It's possible 50 is preparing to release a documentary that lays out exactly how Jay-Z and Diddy could be tied to Epstein behind the scenes. Because at this point, it doesn't feel like a coincidence anymore. Diddy and Epstein moved in the same elite circles, crossed paths with the same people, and operated in the same world, yet somehow, the public is expected to believe they never interacted.
Where stretching his fingers like, another post. 50 probably woke up, saw the headlines and said, God is good. 50 Cent jumped on Instagram and posted the article on his page and wrote the caption, I know I'm late on this, but this is kinda crazy. What do you do to get thrown into that mix? And he posted a picture of Jay-Z and wrote the caption, damn, they got my man Jay in the Epstein files. I gotta do a doc on this. Bro, don't tell me you about to do a Jay-Z documentary that's gonna be even more spicier than the Diddy one you dropped. Now, we all know that 50 lives for moments like this. This is like Christmas, Thanksgiving, and tax season combined in one. 50 don't even need facts. He needs content.
The Diddy and Epstein stories are a lot more alike than most people realize. And some believe the similarities go even deeper, so deep that both men may have been operating as assets connected to foreign intelligence. If that's true, then the idea that they were working together isn't far-fetched at all. And it could explain why Epstein never wrote Diddy's name down, because the last thing he would do is expose another valuable asset. Suge Knight has even spoken publicly about Diddy allegedly working with the federal government. And according to that narrative, it would also explain why Diddy reportedly had so many cameras inside his mansion. One tweet about the camera situation summed up the entire suspicion perfectly. It read, dropping in to reflect on the hashtag Diddy situation. What I find most interesting about all of these allegations that have come to light is that it is crystal clear that Diddy is a U.S. intelligence asset dedicated to collecting blackmail to be leveraged against powerful people. Similar to both Jeffrey Epstein and Playboy's Hugh Hefner, he allegedly had cameras in the mansions where he threw elaborate Hollywood parties. And here's the chilling part, because the moment you hear that, one question instantly comes to mind. Who else was known for having hidden cameras everywhere? Epstein. Footage released in the Epstein files reportedly shows hidden surveillance devices placed throughout Epstein's home and office, cameras positioned in ways that suggest they weren't there for security, but for recording people privately. Several of Epstein's victims even testified that they believed they were filmed. But just like the rumors surrounding Diddy's alleged tapes, none of that footage has ever surfaced publicly. And despite multiple accomplices and victims claiming these recordings exist, the government has consistently denied it, or at least denied having access to it. But the accusations keep circling back to the same terrifying possibility, that the footage wasn't meant for entertainment, it was meant for blackmail. It's honestly not hard to believe that Epstein and Diddy could have been working together as part of a larger blackmail operation, because if that's what they were doing, their communication wouldn't have been about friendship. It would have been about names, targets, and the powerful people they had trapped. And just like the rumors that have followed Diddy for years, Epstein had the same kind of whispers surrounding him long before everything finally exploded into the public eye. People talked, but nothing ever happened until it was too late. Nicki Minaj recently added even more fuel to the fire when she tweeted about Epstein's ties to the entertainment industry, and she didn't hold back when mentioning Jay-Z. She wrote, "Are y'all understanding that these people have been sacrificing children as a way of gaining and maintaining power? If you ever vote Democrat again, you're just as soulless as they are and will perish. Maybe it's time for me to do some story times, since I was trying to not say what I know." Then she continued, saying they were still trying to bully her into silence. She also claimed she wouldn't be releasing another album until her contract was renegotiated, and until she exposed the sabotage her RICO team was allegedly uncovering involving Billboard. And in another tweet, she went even further, describing what she says was really happening behind the scenes in Hollywood. And the details she hinted at were absolutely horrifying.
And yeah, she's not the first person in Hollywood to say that. I just don't know how much could be in our face anymore before we wake up and realize these people are ruling over us, and they win when we're fighting with each other. That's just the reality. I really don't see how you can have a ton of success in Hollywood and not be in the club, because Hollywood was founded upon this. I just don't really care what you call me. It's time for everyone to wake.
The craziest part is, people have been hearing Jay-Z's name tied to all of this for years, but despite the rumors, the accusations, and the whispers behind the scenes, nothing has ever happened. No investigation. No accountability. Just silence.
T and Pusha T, they made their living killing our people. So how the fuck they gonna stand up for our people? You know what I'm saying? But we forget that because we love Jay-Z's music so much. We love Pusha's music so much, right? But you think they would ever, oh, Beyonce had the best for somebody else You know what I'm saying? You think they would ever tell the truth? No, if they told the truth about anything, they'd go to jail. You know what I'm saying? So you have liars. Liars are now the fake.
Jay-Z may be one of the most talked about names in the Epstein files, but he's really just the tip of the iceberg. Because once you start digging into the other people mentioned, it becomes clear this wasn't some isolated scandal, it was a global web involving billionaires, politicians, and powerful officials on levels most people can't even imagine. And it didn't stop in America either. The deeper you go, the more you realize that even international elites were allegedly tied to Epstein's network. In fact, the British royal family appears far more connected than many expected. Prince Andrew has once again been named in the latest release, reigniting the controversy around his relationship with Epstein. And one of the most disturbing additions to the newest batch of files includes photographs that reportedly show Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor on his knees, positioned over a woman lying on the ground, images that have now been included as part of the latest Epstein file release.
Writer and broadcaster Esther Krakow joining us from the UK. Esther, this is a shocker. He is a disgrace. What more can the royal family do? They obviously want him to hide from public sight forever.
Yeah, I think the latest basically series of the Jeffrey Epstein files is kind of what pushed the king over the edge. And I'm sure he's kind of slowly losing his mind because they wish the scandal would go away. But obviously the complete lack of judgment by the Yorkses, so Sarah Ferguson and the prince formerly known as Andrew, has just kind of made this much worse. I mean, I would say this latest entrancement has shown actually the greed of Sarah Ferguson. But on Prince Andrew, there was a picture that is now circulating of him on all fours hovering over a woman that we don't know, that is not moving. And obviously this doesn't necessarily suggest any wrongdoing, but it just shows the kind of the degree of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And I think the real scandal that people just can't get over is the fact that he actually repeatedly denied having any sort of contact with Jeffrey Epstein after his conviction for pedophilia and trafficking. And that's clearly proven to be false. Even Sarah Ferguson, in an email exchange a couple of years, I believe, after he was convicted, said that she wanted to be his pet. So clearly this is not someone who had disavowed this man until they actually had a public falling out, I think in 2011, where they severed ties completely.
See, some of these Sarah Ferguson emails are pretty disturbing too. It seems that she's aware at least of the role of girls and beautiful women in all of this. She seems to be encouraging and even offering.
Before we get into the rest of the names, it's important to understand just how dark these allegations really are and the kind of crimes some of these individuals may be connected to. Because after people started digging through the newly released files, some came across claims that go far beyond trafficking and abuse. Some believe Epstein may have been involved in something even more horrifying, stealing babies from women. One of the most disturbing pieces mentioned is a diary entry dated back to 2002, reportedly written by one of Epstein's victims. In that entry, she alleges that she gave birth to a baby girl when she was only 16 or 17 years old. According to her claims, Epstein wasn't just exploiting her, he was allegedly using her to farm babies. She said she was forced to become pregnant repeatedly, and that the babies were either taken away from her or, in other cases, aborted. If even part of that is true, it takes the entire Epstein case into a level of evil that most people can barely comprehend.
Epstein had a secret child who was taken from its teenage mother at birth. This according to newly unearthed documents from the investigation into Epstein's crimes. Buried in the latest batch of the Epstein files are claims that Epstein fathered multiple children, including one by a teenager. In an anonymous diary entry, a woman describes how at 16 or 17 years old, she gave birth to a baby who was taken away from her just moments after delivery. Included is a copy of a pregnancy scan dated to 20 weeks gestation. She alleges Ghislaine Maxwell supervised the birth and writes that Epstein told her he wanted to create a superior gene pool. The diary was shared by the woman's lawyers, with federal prosecutors investigating Epstein and Maxwell. The Times was able to confirm the woman's real name, but has chosen to protect her identity. I was not able to verify the woman's claims, and if true, what happened to the newborn. It's never been publicly confirmed that Epstein fathered any children, and there's no mention of any offspring in a will he drew up in the years before his 2019 death in a New York prison cell. But several names in the will have been.
This wasn't the first time allegations like this came up. If you go back and look at some of Epstein's old interviews, it almost feels like he was confessing to his own crimes. He reportedly admitted to exploiting young women and even tried to justify it, claiming it was fine because he paid the mothers. What happened to the babies after they were taken from their mothers is still largely unclear. The files haven't fully unredacted those details. But judging by Epstein's other documented crimes, the reality was likely far more depraved than most of us could imagine. One thing is certain: Epstein was charged with human trafficking, and in the months leading up to his death, reports suggest he had decided to start exposing others involved in his network. The full extent of his connections and what he knew about others remains chilling.
Some of those videos in these latest releases, and we can play a couple of minutes of that now, in which Epstein discusses being a sex offender.
Is your money dirty money?
If you live,
I just asked a question. Is your money dirty money?
No, it's not. So, in fact,
why is it not dirty money?
Because I earned it.
But you earned it. We went back to this before. You earned
yes.
it. You earned it, advising the worst people in the world, right? That do enormous bad things, and just to make more money.
So, instead of asking me the question, should you take the money? Because I think it's a legitimate question.
Do you think it's a legitimate question?
Yes, no question. Because ethics is always a complicated subject, but I can tell you that with the money I gave to help try to eradicate polio in Pakistan and India, instead of asking me whether that money should be given to these children for vaccines, I think you might want to ask their mothers who received the vaccine, who know their child now won't get polio, and ask them if Epstein should have helped.
Now that we've seen just how depraved Epstein and his network were, the next name making headlines is Bill Gates. The latest file release included 2 emails from August 18, 2013. One of them reads like a resignation letter from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and it allegedly references Gates needing medicine to deal with the aftermath of sexual encounters with young Russian women. Additional details about what went on behind the scenes have also surfaced. According to sources online, Gates reportedly used Epstein to source women for him, a claim that has fueled intense speculation. This was reportedly one of the key reasons his marriage fell apart. In an interview with NPR, Melinda Gates reflected on the document release, saying it brought back memories of the struggles in their relationship and the challenges they faced during that period.
Melinda said the release of the documents brought up memories of their marital struggles.
To a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health. You know, in retrospect, that was a dead end, and I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
You've no doubt seen the allegations, including some of them from the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself.
Draft.
That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. It just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
The problem is some of the things that he has sent and some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true. Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Shockingly, some of the highest-ranking officials in the U.S. government were reportedly tied to Epstein as well. In fact, according to the latest file release, some even brought their children to meet him. Emails suggest that U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick visited Epstein's private island in 2012 with his family contradicting earlier claims that he had cut ties with Epstein years before. One email from December 2012, sent by Lutnick's wife Allison to Epstein's assistant, read, "We are looking forward to visiting you and we would love to join you for lunch." During congressional testimony in February 2026, Lutnick publicly confirmed the visit for the first time, admitting that he spent about an hour on the island with his wife, 4 children, and their nannies. Previously, he had maintained that he had ended all contact with Epstein in 2005. Even billionaires like Elon Musk, former director of the Department of Government Efficiency and the richest man on the planet, appear in the files. Several emails reportedly show him actively requesting invitations from Epstein, raising questions about how deep the connections ran.
Justice Department official says the review of the Jeffrey Epstein files is over. The same official indicated there would be no new charges. Now the Trump administration is facing backlash from Epstein survivors and Democrats. This was California Congressman Ro Khanna yesterday.
There is a demand for elite accountability, but the survivors' lawyers that I've talked to have said that the survivors are still upset. They're upset that many of their names accidentally came out without redactions, and they want to make sure the rest of the files come out.
CBS News Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us from our Washington bureau with more on this. Scott, you've been sifting through as much of this as you can. What's in this so-called final batch?
It's a process. We're still working through millions of pages here, Errol. And it's worth noting these were released more than 40 days after the legal deadline for the Department of Justice to do so. No one besides Epstein and former associate Ghislaine Maxwell has been charged, but the Department of Justice insisting its work is done has only fueled more.
As more documents come to light and more people start responding, the conversation is starting to shift from pure shock to questions of accountability. And that's where it gets truly interesting. Being named in the files is one thing, being directly connected is another, but understanding the system that allowed all of this to happen? That's the story no one's been telling. If you want the latest updates on 50 Cent's documentary, deep dives into the newest document releases, and a detailed breakdown of how all these connections fit together, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. And let us know what you think in the comments. Is this all just coincidence, social overlap, or something far bigger?